Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So can we all see my screen still?
Yes, we can. Yes.
I think it's off now.
Okay. So it can just be very high level, and you can assign, because I'm the only one configured on this board for now. I'll assign it to myself. I can give more description about the epic. I can say things like this solution, as we discussed earlier, this solution should be able to allow users send money in different currencies across borders. Right? And say specific countries, Nigeria is our main one, UK and US, right? Integration, consideration. Let's integrate to conversion app. Conversion, FX conversion API. This would be capable of converting currencies using market rates. Right? What else do we need? Authentication API. This one for login and login, user validation, account validation. No, let's leave that. Let's say account validation API. API is application
interface.
So side note, this is used to transmit like requests from one place to one service, one system to request from one service application system to another. It can be a REST API, SOAP API. There are different types of APIs, right? So, right. So this is can we all relate to what I've just written at my epic? Like this kind of describe like all what we want to do in this application is epic level. It's very big. Of course, we need to break this thing down to be able to get that solution out. And the last part, maybe to send the money, send the value. Can I get validation that we understand what an epic is based on what I've just written?
I think is this an epic for the entire software build or?
Yeah. So I'm making it like just one epic for this solution because of time.
Okay. Yeah.
So
yeah,
like,
understood.
If we have a robust discussion, we can even break APIs into one epic and say, okay, epic, another epic is for FX conversion, you know, ability to convert your different currencies to different. Another one will be for user authentication, all of that. If you understand what I'm saying, I just want to keep this as simple as it can be, just for us to make progress.
Yeah, thanks, Minga. I think most of us are catching up. Well, thanks for the video as well. If we make the video available, we can go through and then ask
Yeah.
questions, further questions. We don't want to ask them. We don't want to go off tangent, asking unnecessary questions at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So we've created these epics now, right? So this is a tag. Tag can be, it's just something to tag, like, you know, when you buy a clothes, you just tag it some. You want to tag that, okay, this epic is related to FX application. So we can give it any name really, but just tag. Other useful thing for Azure is you can see who created it, right? And currently this issue is in to-do. You can see some of the fields that we added earlier, the title, the name of person, the backlog, all of that, the description here. Here, I can add a link if I want. I can create new item, right? So now I want to create issue. Some call it issue, some call it stories, right? But because I think this is a free version, so there's no story here. But you can call it issue, you can call it story. Remember what
that was what I was saying before. You know, when you are creating that project, what do you call Lubwenga, then you use the basic. That was why you got that. So if you had chosen Scrum, or there's option down there, if you had chosen Scrum or Agile, then that would have made a difference in.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, we can still use this. This is story, this is issue, whatever. And remember, I told you the hierarchy. Epic, it can be epic to features, right? Sometimes it can be epic to user story directly. It depends on how you want to really structure it. So, but the idea is there's user story, there's feature, there's epic, and the hierarchy I've already explained earlier. So for this one, let's just do one user story. Or let us link an existing user story. I think I created one user story earlier, right? So to do that, add link existing. Now, remember I created 2 stories earlier, or 2 issues. So I want to link one on, which is authentication here. So can you see that it forms a bit of hierarchy? So this is the child of the epic, right? And even under this epic, although under this user story, let's discuss the acceptance criteria as a team. Remember our roles. Remember your roles on this project. I've given you guys a role. So let's discuss. Yeah, we can add something to this description. So we can add more description, like just more context, right? So here we can say only user with the correct login details should be able to access the app. What's the correct login details in this case? We can say, oh, correct login details, username, correct username.
Verified usernames.
Yeah.
Sorry, is that going to be part of the acceptance criteria or no?
It can be there as well, right? It can be there really. At least you're already getting the point. So in acceptance criteria is, if we build this user story now and somebody comes, right? And you can log in with any user name and password, right? When who is our tester again? Who is our tester?
Haliru.
I am.
Aliru will help us test this thing now. When Tosin and who is our lead developer, all our developer, when they build this thing now, right? We'll go through the step. But again, this is the discussions that we have done in the team and say, okay, we want to define these acceptance criteria. Someone like Folani in the team now has asked us, when we're describing this thing, he's saying, is this not also, our acceptance criteria, which is typically some of the questions that come up. And we can say, yeah, it's actually part of, our acceptance criteria. But yeah, we want to just give more information about what this user story means, right? So that nothing is lost, if that makes sense. Password. And maybe two-factor. There's some two-factor. I'm sure we all know two-factor, where like a code will come. It can be text or app, email, whatever, right? This thing
Like when you log into ATO, they have to send you code for you to actually.
Exactly. And some app some people might implement app and they don't put 2FA, right? But we were saying for extra security, we know that there's a lot of data breach in Australia now, right? So that they don't come and breach us. We be in the news, we suffer reputational damage. Let us add 2FA. It's an extra form of security. Do we understand? So now in this acceptance criteria, we cannot be saying things like, okay, this must have, for example, it's just normal stuff. People write it in different way, right? You can say this must have 2FA implementation. You can say only valid authentication, and we already know what valid authentication. What else? Let me ask. So it's not, no, I'm not the only one talking. So I know we've gone beyond just showing Azure now, but I think this is very useful information for you as you go into your interviews or your work, So what else can we add to acceptance criteria? What should happen? You've all used an app. This part.
Correct login details.
Yes, correct login details, which is what I've written here. Only valid authentication. And we say authentication is our username, verified password, What else can be? We can write it again for emphasis in different language.
One of the criteria that it logs you out automatically after inactivity for 60 minutes.
Thank you. Session inactivity.
Inactive expiration or something.
So inactive session should log you out, because this is a very good feature. Polari, who said that?
Our cloud security personnel.
Our security. Oh yeah, that's very good. That's very good. I love it. So yeah, like you all use application. Yeah, it can be. You can also put it here. It's not cast in stone per se. Yeah. So you can really see that when we discuss it more as a team, we get more things. Because I was not even thinking about session ID, although it's a non-functional requirement. Things of security consideration, performance. Now we need to talk about load. Like, okay, if 1,000 users try to log into this application now, some system will just land. Sorry to use that one. Some system will just scatter and you see error. You see some app not available at this time or something, right? So we need to also factor some of this. We can write it here and say load capacity, for example, should be 1,000 user per second. right? So when what will now happen is let's leave it as this, right? And we've talked about this in the first session where Abdul took, like, I can mention someone now and say, assuming all of you are configured, I can mention and say, lead developer, Tosin and Precious, solution architect. What is the flow? How do we define the flow of this thing? Like, what's the architecture consideration that we need to do? Like, what service, would help us ensure that, for example, this 2FA now, we need to integrate to an email system so that we can send email OTP, that OTP over email. We need to integrate to telco to send OTP via SMS, all those things. Now, I need my technical solution architect to tell us which one is better to use in Australia. For example, our Precious, please come up with architecture key for this. Please. We can be in the same meeting like this and be discussing this and put this note so that they don't forget, or they might not even be here. I've thought about this and I've written it alone and I'm mentioning them so they can see it, right? It's all for collaboration. Please see this ticket and advice.
So most likely this will lead to creating another story, which you might call maybe an enabler story, because you need to, the developers, whoever is looking into it, we need to, do some research. Exactly. So they call it spikes or enabler stories.
Yeah. So this is still my backlog, right? We can discuss and say, and this story is too big, actually. This story has many things now, right? Precious and Tosin, as he said now, can say there are other stories that are involved. We need to integrate to SMS for the OTP, 2FA thing to work. We need to integrate to we need small, we need other story, because your user story must be, simple enough so that you can actually implement it and everybody understand what needs to be done. What will I do? Yeah, what will I now do? I'll now go to the backlog and say, okay, yeah, valid point. In my backlog again, I can now create new story and say, as a user, I want to be able to send SMS to. I want to be able to create SMS. No, I want to be able to integrate to an SMS service so that it can enable the 2FA authentication. We'll now discuss what is the acceptance criteria. Oh, this telco should always send, your OTP should last 5, OTP sent via SMS should only be valid for 5 minutes. OTP sent for authentication should only be valid for 5 minutes. Right? I can say, oh, Tosin, solution architect, please validate. It might as well be the one even writing this. It might write it in a way and I'll just go and refine it and add more this thing and add more description, like, this will help us. This would help with the 2FA over SMS authentication. So there are many things, right? But this is typically how the conversation goes, right? So we have this backlog. Let's even just say these are the backlog that we now have, right? So we now have all this in backlog, yeah? In work items, you see the epics. Epics are the big one, remember, right? And they have some linked Come on, why are you not linked? So I linked, and it's supposed to show you. I don't know why it's not showing there. Let me link this epic again. Or maybe I did not save it. So let me. No.
Which one are you linking?
I want to link some existing. So let's link here. Existing. No. Yeah, what's happening? Existing item. Sorry. Chart, yeah. So these are the user stories that, or the issues that I've created. I can now say, yeah, a link, okay, is here. I can link another one if I want. To do that, I can do existing. So assuming we can see now that two chart value. So these two stories, a child. Oh, okay, so it already exists. Let me save. So those two are linked to this epic now. Okay, so I think if you open this. So you can see this story is linked to that our main epic, right? We can also, yeah, we can also add a stacks, right? So now let's role play. Let's go back to role play. So we have, remember, we have epic, we have user story now, and I've prioritized it. I'll say, in this thing, forget Azure DevOps. Is the last thing on our priority list, right? We want to work on these two. Number 4 and 2. But no, we don't want to work on number 4 before number 2. Let's move number 4 up. Let's move number 2 up. Okay, sorry.
And just to add to this prioritization, he's saying we don't want to work on number 2 because definitely you need to have an account before you can actually think of doing authentication and doing 12A stuff,
12A,
receiving a code.
Yeah, so this prioritization, so prioritization is, now let's discuss as a team. Does it make sense to go and integrate SMS when we've not actually done the skeletal for authentication? Remember, we need to authenticate, authentication is when we get to authentication, we now try to do, okay, the different type of authentication, integration, like SMS, email, and all of that, right? So it makes sense to start with the first one, which is authenticate, before we go to SMS. Now, for some reason, I don't know why this is not moved.
You have to go to backlog to do that you're trying to do.
Is done in backlog, right? But
it's not reflecting on the.
Yeah, the other one is reflecting based on recently. Look at where you sorted it and recently created, updated.
Yeah, is sorting it what how they call it, like based on how you created them.
Yeah, so that way.
But I can change that if I want, but
so you can change it from the drop down there at the left part where you have recently updated.
Yeah, so I think this one is just listing all the work item. Is from the board you actually backlog that you prioritize them, right?
Yeah.
So basically you prioritize your backlog, right? And in this case, I have my backlog prioritized. Guys, so I have my backup, I'm the PA, remember. So now I've come to sprint planning. Guys, I've come to sprint planning. I'm taking this back to our sprint planning on Confluence. So guys, while sprint plan, welcome to sprint planning meeting, right? In this sprint planning, we'll be discussing this prioritized, backlog, and we will define our sprint goal, and we'll talk about what we want to achieve in this goal. I think that we should do a 2-week sprint because it will help us expect and adapt more quickly. We can really see things in 10 days, what is not working. We can really adapt much quickly than going 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then things are failed. It takes much more. Remember that Idode will not be happy. He has given us money for this business, and we need to really show value. So I have my tester, DevOps, everybody, solution architect, tester, lead developer, UI, UX, right? In this stuff. So we want to discuss this prioritized background. I'll be capturing some notes on my Confluence based on this meeting, right? So let's say I've mentioned everybody here. Idode might not attend this session because he's a big man. He's just going to be in his office and be waiting for us. So Idode is our MD.
Hello.
Just
Idode money.
so for Larry, sorry if I don't mention. I want to save time. We have 6 minutes. So basically, how to do this in our sprint planning, guys? What we will do is we already have a prioritized backlog, right? In this session, I'm the BA and I'm also the Scrum Master, right? What we will do is to discuss these prioritized user stories, and then we'll put it into our sprint. So this is sprint 1. Anything we choose here, we can move it to sprint, right?
Oh, okay.
So we can create another sprint, for example. It's just to drag and drop to this current sprint. Let me create sprint 2 so you guys can look. And I've said it's 10-day sprint we'll do. Are you guys seeing how I'm creating new sprint? Let's say we start on a Monday because that's more realistic. And it's a 2-week sprint. So if we start on 17, we'll end on Friday.
28.
Right? And then I'll create. So can you see what happened now? So these are our current sprints starting on Monday, 10 working days, right? So I want to, guys, we have this user story. Let's discuss. Solution architect, we want to achieve this. I want to be able to authenticate customer account and all of that. What do we, and this is the description. We've talked about this. This is the acceptance criteria. Do we understand this story? Precious,
Yep.
Tosi, developer. So what do we need to do to achieve this? Assuming that you're a dev, for example, you can say,
We need to break it down.
It's big. We might need to break it down because we need to do this and this. You'll be mentioning, the dev guy will now be mentioning things. He needs to build APIs for this. He needs to build the API for that. And I say, okay, can we create it as a subtask? Yeah? Let's create it as a subtask. All the things you want to do now. So let's create new work item, subtask. This is subtask. This is a task. So
Why not go from, maybe if you go from the backlog, so you can straight directly be connected to that particular.
don't worry, I think there's an issue with the configuration. We can link it after we create it. Don't worry. We'll just yeah. So Precious, Tosi, yeah, what do we need to achieve that? I know it's big, but at least we understand what we want to deliver.
Yeah.
We want to, it's user authentication. I know based on my experience, you need to build some APIs for that that authentication of username and password and all of that. So let me write down build API.
API endpoints and all this.
API is also endpoint for user name and password authentication. Pressure, you need to also, for pressures, I'll now assign this like, okay, this is Tosin. Assuming Tosin was here, Tosin, would you, please, can you flesh this up? Help us, tell us the other things that we need to do to achieve this. You flesh it up here. I want to create another one for, let's say for our UI. You need to create some UI artifact for us for login, like the button, how the thing would look and feel, right? So let's create, should we create it as a task or as a story? Let's create it as a story. As a user, as a UI interface. Let's use that. I want users to allow this meeting went to allow user to enter username and password. Oh, okay. Blah blah blah. We can fill all this later, no time. Right? So the UI guy, who is our UI guy? Into tell us, oh, I need to do the mockups, whatever. You will write it here, and here I can say there must be username field, log password field, login button,
Forget password.
forget password,
New user register.
new user exactly. Forgot what else? The design of that, like maybe just brief design of the app and what's design.
Because of time, maybe we just go with this one.
Terms and conditions.
Right. So you guys have idea now of sorry. Hello?
Hello from the Health Bureau. We have not responded to the emergency related notices for many times. For the final notice, please contact us.
Okay, guys. So basically, that's how we work with board. Let's go back to our backlog. So what we now do is we discuss. We now say, UI guy, you can do this in this sprint. It will take you this. There's estimation part. You will say, it can take me maybe it's 5 story points. Next time we'll talk about story point. We will now put it in the sprint. We'll drag it here, sprint 2. We'll say, this one we can do it in this sprint. We move it to this sprint 2, right? So we now say, because we have 4 developers, this guy too can work on this. We'll move it here. We'll move it here. Sorry, I think we moved down right. So you see.